Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. In this video, I go through the Persistent Universe monthly report, letting you know exactly what CIG have been working on. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members for allowing me to do what I love to do. All the links are below if you would like to help out. And also, we have a Mantis standalone ship to give away, courtesy of one of my channel members. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed and comment with what you're excited for in 3.10. So, kicking off with combat animation, they have refined the dodge action triggering, which is used during combat when a player is aiming or shooting towards an NPC. Hopefully the NPCs won't be performing Neo's bullet time, but making them a little bit more difficult to hit, potentially. All NPC character types will benefit from the ongoing improvements to AI weapon components, which will expose all the weapons' fire modes, enabling AI to switch between the fire modes, just like we can as a player. Currently, the team is adding ammo box refill functionality for NPCs, so during combat, any NPC with low or no ammunition can retreat to an ammo box and refill their weapon. They're also implementing specific urgent enter, exit and rummage animations, and will improve the looting mechanic that allow the players and NPCs to pick ammunition and store it on their loadouts. Firstly, it'll be very fun to see the AI actually able to continue a firefight with having the ability to reload, obviously once the server tick rate remains at a steady 30 frames, but it's also very exciting for this looting mechanic. That'll be great. It's probably more just to do with picking ammo off of downed players and NPCs. Maybe we'll get that before we get the full physical inventories and full looting mechanic, just being able to reload your weapons from downed enemies, which will be very useful. Finally, for combat animation, improvements were made to the animations when NPCs move into and out of cover, and an unwanted behavior was removed that caused NPCs to blind fire from cover even when the player wasn't there. So on to social AI. The social AI team spent time on the bartender and did the first pass of a feature that connects the different bars to the shop's services. They say this will enable the vendor to validate the price of any item in relation to the player's available cash and complete a transaction once goods are delivered. It is going to be really nice once they have hooked up all of the AI in the verse. In terms of vendors, being able to go and look at a weapon and they're showing you a weapon and then giving you a walk around the shop or just interacting in a more lifelike manner is going to be very cool. Progress was made on the patrol path functionality. This allows instant path calculations for short distances. It heavily reduces delay when triggering specific cutscenes or animations for a much smoother experience. And bug-wise, the team fixed several problems that were causing NPCs to stand on top of usables, like chairs for example. The majority of these were actually direct consequences of object container streaming, preventing characters from reattaching to usables, with other issues like wrong navigation mesh validation. Now, I'm happy that they have shed some light into why the NPCs are standing on chairs. It's obviously been a bit of a novelty meme problem in the verse for so long now, and they keep saying they fixed it, and then you go in and you can see them standing on chairs. It's interesting that it is an object container streaming issue though. I always assumed it was more to do with server degradation, so it's not as simple as it seems. There's multiple issues that are causing them to stand on chairs. Hopefully they have cracked down on it somewhat for the 3.10 live release and NPCs are not stood on items. Anyway, for general AI, they improved the look component, which they have now a list of priorities. So number 1 is look ahead. This means when moving on a path, the NPC might try to look ahead based on its path. Number 2 is procedural object discovery, and it says when moving around, interesting things might be noticed by the NPC and it can be looked at. Number 3 is behavior driven request, saying the behavior can sometimes explicitly request the NPC to look at something. Number 4 is track view, which we've heard a lot in Squadron 42, and this is during cutscenes, the designer can override targets based on the scene itself, which is probably more specific to Squadron rather than the PU. And then finally, number 5 is synchronization, and it says in the PU environment, the networked target is used by the NPC on the client. So very interesting to see that they are giving NPCs really small but important abilities to bring them more to life, and I feel like it's going to be one of those touches that make a big difference, more than it sounds like on paper. So for animation, last month the team worked on forced reactions like knockbacks, knockdowns, twitches and flinches. They have completed the pre-visual work on zero-G push and pull. They further developed grenade and object throwing and undertook tests for high-gravity moves. I guess high-gravity moves meaning how your character would react on a planet with a greater gravity than what we're used to. I'm very happy to hear that this push and pull mechanic is still in the works. In fact, we were just talking about this on the stream earlier last week, I believe. Eventually, EVA jets on your suit won't come as standard and they will require a separate purchase. If you don't have them and you find yourself in zero-G, this push and pull mechanic will allow you to move around the area provided that you have something to actually hold on to, like an interior of a ship, and it does look very exciting. Also for animation, the usables for flight hangars, cryo tanks and seated consoles got attention, and work on the chow line usable, as they call it, began, which is to manage NPCs queuing for food. And finally for animation, they continued to work through the mocap backlog, com calls and the review and selection pipelines. So on to environmental art. The team are now excited to have this new updated brush tool. A brush is basically a collection of ingredients that can be painted onto the planet. In the past, the team would paint colour, objects and ground textures separately, but with this new update, they can now assign all of these to one brush and paint them all at the same time, and it can all be changed on the fly. Now this is a major step forwards into how they will create the 100 systems slated for the verse. They are already storming through Pyro, as we will get to in a second, so no concerns there. The organic shader received huge improvements in terms of terrain asset integration. The team can now tell each object to pick up either the colour of the bedrock or the terrain. And production wrapped up on Pyro 3 and 4, and the white box asset of Pyro 6 was further developed. Pyro 5 is currently on hold until they can get this gas cloud tech, which is currently in the R&D phase, coming alongside Crusader. So that is all of the planets for Pyro well underway. This doesn't include the moons, I don't think. However, I believe all of the moons in Pyro are around Pyro 5. There are 6 moons, and I think they all cluster around Pyro 5, the gas giant. So whether they'll bring them in for the first iteration of Pyro, I don't know. But it doesn't take them very long to create moons, and they would probably put a placeholder gas giant in, like what they've done with Crusader. So on to ship art. The team moved the Crusader Mercury into final art stage, which involved iterating on feedback, adding textures, and alongside this, Hookup will continue for animations, interactions, setting up the internal and external doors, and RTT or render to texture and com calls. Additionally, design will optimize flight camera and visuals. They are so close to getting this ship completed. But there was nothing to be said about the Hercules, which I was surprised at. Also, while awaiting the Mercury, the tech artists worked on several rigs for the pilot and operator seats. This work will create the template used by characters, AI and cinematics. The Origin 100i series is nearing completion, with technical exterior work and the holographic cockpit button currently in progress, and work also continued on one soon-to-be unveiled ship, which could be the Talon, and another that won't be seen for a while, but this is in greybox stage. I wonder if that's the Odin, maybe. Moving on to weapon art, the team continued on the Bearing GP33 grenade launcher, which required tweaks to its ammunition and rig. The team also finalised the Bearing BR2 shotgun, I think this is the drum-fed shotgun, and began roughing out the Gemini A03 or A03 sniper rifle. So we're going to get another sniper rifle from Gemini this time, which should look nice. For ship weapons, the Bearing size 7 laser repeater was completed. Doesn't the Ares use a size 7? Interesting. And work begun on some new turrets, plus a pass was made on the Bearing size 12 torpedo to include a destroyed variant. For the audio team, they are supporting the new gameplay features, items and locations coming to Alpha 3.11, which included the improved throw mechanic, the GP33 grenade launcher, cargo decks, which received new music, and Walla, which are crowd sounds. They have also added music to locations without dedicated soundtracks like caves, and completed the audio rework of the Klausen-Werner Demeco LMG and Arc-Light pistol. The team also looked into new methods of adding dialogue to missions to give more variation, and they say, and I quote, "This is very early, so don't expect to see any updates in the near future, but they are aware of the repetitiveness," end quote. So it'll be very nice when that finally makes it in. This is something that we heard them talk about on the latest audio team calling all devs. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses. Now on to back-end services. They worked diligently through July to make improvements to existing tech that will increase the number of concurrent players and provide a higher quality experience in-game and when logging in. They also finished major refactors to the variable service and item caching system that will have the same benefits. These will come in future releases, so it is great to hear them talking about increasing the player count, I believe, and also hearing that they have finished the major refactors for the iCache, which is great news. Hopefully we will see the benefits of this as soon as possible. For the character team, they worked on several helmets and armors that will be revealed in upcoming months. The creature development continued and is now requiring the input of other departments. Creatures require AI and other support, so the team is working to secure the engineering manpower needed for a dedicated creature team. It'll be superb when we get to see many of the planned creatures begin to come online, including the Pyro crab and the Microtech bear, amongst others, of course. So for engineering, they made server memory optimizations. They've improved collision detection by 5%. And planet terrain patches were rotated to prevent them from overlapping if the patch is far from either the equator or the poles. Work was also done on the signed distance field sets for the vehicle team, and support was given to dragging bodies onto ships and downstairs. They also continued their work on the Gen 12 renderer and begun improving runtime support for both the Gen 12 and legacy pipelines to ensure usability during transitions. Also, a lot of updates and improvements to planet atmospheres. So a lot going on there. And it's great to hear that they're now looking into transitioning to the Gen 12 renderer. That should bring some big benefits. For gameplay features, the team is working to convert the front-end screens to the new building block system. They do plan to dramatically redefine the game's entry experience at a later stage, but the current goal is to get the front end into a suitable place for these updates and to improve the existing process. They also finally created design documents for high-level plans for a number of exciting large-scale initiatives that will be coming to the PU in the near future and beyond. I wish I knew which initiatives they're talking about. I'm guessing one of them is the resource generation and item control system. Do let me know what else you think in the comments below. So the vehicle features team, along with the numerous 3.10 features, the team worked on docking, reaching a point where they can now dock the Merlin to the Constellation. Various elements impact this feature like physics attachments, multiplayer, and the UI that supports players when docking. So happy they're making progress here. I actually really can't wait to see a huge ship dock with another ship or with a space station. That is going to be quite a momentous day. Now, level design continued to expand several new locations. Horizon's design is making great progress, with the team finalizing large parts of the layout. A pass was also completed for the location's important core systems, markup, and a handful of rest stops received new layouts and plans for additional content with the mission team. Now, I'm wondering what the mission team are doing in regards to space stations. Could there be cargo deck missions coming? That'll be nice with 3.11. For the lighting team, they continued their pass on Lawville and turned their attention to Area 18 to receive this separate day-night lighting. A key focus last month was improving the NPC lighting across all bar locations, as they really wanted to show them off in their best light. And for the future, they are doing some R&D into improving the look of characters inside ship cockpits and through comm calls. The aim for this is to both raise the quality of cockpit lighting and add consistency to characters. They will also optimize various elements to reduce the lighting cost when multiple ships are on screen at once. And can I just say a big thank you to the lighting team, as 3.10 looks phenomenal. So the narrative team worked on art and design to further develop Horizon and Pyro, creating documents outlining the general tone, potential storylines, and environmental storytelling to help sell the intended experience. They also began constructing a narrative timeline for the PU, where they will be able to map out projected storylines on everything from local level events to covering multiple systems. Now, this sounds great. I cannot wait to see more involving missions, and finding a way that can help develop deeper story-driven missions quickly will be an important part to the final game. The narrative team also began updating the writer's guide, which I am actually reading through the original right now, and it is fascinating stuff, but obviously if they change it, things will alter, so I'll have to reread through it. Never mind. Anyway, for props, they spent time this month supporting the upcoming cargo stations with an array of shopfront and dressing assets, including shop kiosks, stands, shelves, and counter sets. They also finished on the Microtech Simpod, which is on display at the factory line shop. New props for Grimhex were kicked off and support was given to the cooperative locomotion system. I wonder what that could be. But the Simpods, it will be great when we get to buy them, put them in our hangars or our ships. Don't know when that's going to happen. I think we need proper persistence before that can work. For the QA team, with the combat AI team recently adding derelict AI and new underground facilities placed on Microtech's moons, the QA team expanded their testing to these locations. And I will say that when you go down to a derelict on a planet or moon, which is actually one of my favourite missions to do, beware, the AI NPCs are there and they are walking around heavily armed. It freaked me out at first. I didn't know why there was someone walking around there. I thought it was a player, but they are AI there, so be careful. Also, the ship AI team implemented an update to quantum travel linking, which QA are testing. They said that this change focuses on how players link and travel and sets the groundwork for future updates to the system. Not sure what the changes are, but hopefully we'll find out when we play the game a bit more. So the UI team continued to convert legacy systems to the new building blocks with focus on the lens and comm calls. I wonder if by lens they mean the contact lens, which looks like one day we will be able to swap them out with variations and hopefully fully remove them as well. They also progressed on elevator panels, prepping them for release in the near future. Now, it's actually amazing how dated and un-user-friendly the elevators feel that are still using the old floating white text. I'm so glad that they are making pretty much everything diegetic and the UI as minimal as possible. It does make such a difference, especially in a game like Star Citizen. So the vehicle tech team looked into enter and exit times, investigating how they can speed up the process without speeding up the animations. The team planned to expand the tech to not only speed up enter and exits, but to enable the designers to flesh out more interesting and complex sequences. Now, I would personally love to have the option to change the enter and exit speed on the fly. For instance, if I'm climbing into a vehicle slowly and then I began to get shot at, I'd like to be able to say, hit the sprint button, which will dynamically speed up the process that I'm going through. Otherwise, everyone will just enter using the quickest option, or if a player is waiting to take you out, they will just wait for you to enter the ship and then know that you're going to be at a slow speed and just open fire. That is just my thoughts, but hopefully we'll get a much better system. Time was spent linking gameplay systems like shields with the signed distance field collisions. These improvements will optimize collision impacts with shields and allow the gameplay to match the visual signed distance field. Additionally, the team ensured the collisions work with part detachment, part repair, and attached sub-items such as turrets. I wonder if that means if you lose a wing or turret or you repair a section, the signed distance field will adjust accordingly. Finally, the team worked with the actor feature team on improving the radar and scanning experience for vehicles and on foot. So happy to hear FPS scanning is in the works. This also included experimenting with how capital ships could interfere or hide among smaller ships, and they also added the method to utilize signed distance field to generate an accurate cross-section surface area of an object, which will allow them to plan how ambient signatures from nearby objects like space stations and asteroids can interfere with the cross-section signal. Now, this is so cool, being able to hide your cross-section signature by utilizing the environment. Again, this is signed distance field tech, which has just improved so much in the verse. It is a bit of a wonder tech. Finally, for visual effects, the team completed pre-production tasks for 311 and 312, which included the refinery decks. This includes large containers of molten liquid being poured into them. That should look good. The Origin 100i series and the Bearing GP33 grenade launcher. Fire propagation also made progress, with the code prototype allowing propagation between entities and voxels across multiple surface types. For example, they actually managed a rolling flaming barrel across an interior surface and watched it set fire to the rest of the interior. Don't know if anybody ever played Roscoe McQueen, but I'm getting that sort of vibe. Finally, the Frankfurt team worked to convert the old CPU particle effects to the latest GPU particle system, which will bring both visual and performance improvements to some of the older CPU effects. Anyway, that is the PU monthly report. It is quite a big one this week. Lots of good stuff in the works and coming along. 3.10, as you know, is just released to live, so I hope you're enjoying it. Do let me know what your thoughts are on everything we have heard in today's monthly report. The Squadron 42 report will be coming out probably tomorrow, so keep your eyes peeled for that and hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up with all of Star Citizen's development. Also, come and follow me over on twitch.tv/supermacbrothers Ryan. Thank you to my patrons and channel members again, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.